I'm Brian Madison, and welcome to DeerHunterFan.com TV. This past week got pretty interesting in the woods. A lot of bucks moving, some new bucks on trail cams, Super 8 more on trail cams, and I had some real good chances at a new buck that I've since named Lucky. So we're going to see all of that. And also I just had an encounter this morning with Motel 6. So bucks are on the move. Mike saw a nice buck, JJ saw a nice buck. Josh has been seeing a ton of deer too. So it's been real good hunting this past week, and I'm sure it's going to stay that way for the next few. We're going to get in with all the action right now.
October 25th. Me and Bella are in the blind today in Panama. It feels like it's 70 degrees, but about 59, 60. Rain just stopped. We had some doe in the field. They kind of just walked off, and we had one inside the woods when we came in that blew at us, which is the first time I've had a deer blow at me this year, so I'm trying to teach her the ropes, but this is a pretty good spot in here. This is where I shoulder shot that doe in the pouring rain. Still makes me feel sick. Yesterday morning I shot a buck I called him the Wacky 9. Unfortunately I didn't get him on film. I pressed my remote record button and I don't know if it didn't register or I just didn't press it hard enough. Honestly don't know, but that kind of stinks. But you know, we're done with a buck in New York until regular season, but gonna be starting hunting PA hard. I bought 2 more stands. October 30th, got set up in the blind this morning nice and early, overlooking this cut hayfield and deer have been feeding in quite a bit, but I don't know, it's been raining pretty hard the past couple days. Last night, just before dark, I ran out and just with the binoculars and rain suit and glassed the fields, and a lot of deer were out feeding, and there was a decent looking buck kind of bumping does and feeding around, so I think they're getting close. This morning almost worked. Nice buck came across the field. He was on the search. I tried everything to get him in, but he didn't care. He ignored the grunt, the snort wheeze, the rattle. He just kind of looked back and trotted and kept going the way he was going. So maybe we'll give it another try this afternoon if it's not raining too hard.
right after he left, 2 minutes later, he's marching back in, and this whole time I'm thinking my string must have hit my sleeve. There must have been a big clump of mud on my arrow or something I didn't see from driving up on the gator. It didn't dawn on me the reason my arrow went so low is because my rest didn't raise, which it should have been the first thing I thought of. And I came to full draw on him again at only about 15, 18 yards, and I was trying to adjust the camera with my elbow, and when I did that I finally got my arm far enough away from my body that my bow pulled on my arm and my shoulder, and let me tell you something, that did not feel good. I actually felt my arm start to move out of socket and go back in as I let off on the bow. I was in quite a bit of pain for a few minutes, and actually very sore for about 3 days after. I'm glad I was messing with the camera though, because same thing on that draw, my arrow didn't raise either. Right after he left there, it took him about 45 minutes to finally feed away with that doe and those acorns. And I drew my bow back and saw my rest didn't raise. It dawned on me, I was looking at it and I was like, my quiver is touching my rest. And it's real bad luck.
Watch my rest. It's supposed to be a raise and a drop away rest. When I draw, it doesn't raise, it stayed down. I think it's jammed right here on my quiver. Now it goes up. That's why I shot 3 feet under that buck at 30 yards. And now, in hindsight, after he came back in to 20 yards and I was at full draw on him, and he was getting to be out of camera frame, and I was messing around trying to get the camera bumped back on him. Well, I'm glad I didn't get that shot off, because the same exact thing would have happened. It would have shot way low because that arrow rest wasn't raising my arrow. Talk about getting a break, having that buck come all the way back in like that. If I would have glanced at my arrow rest at some point, who knows? Who knows? I've never had that happen before. Ever. Now I'll be watching for it. But now it's too late. November 4th. Got in here nice and early this morning. Probably gonna sit this stand as much as I can, as long as I keep getting pictures of that good buck coming past it. But
ducked it. He ducked my arrow. I'm just gonna end this interview before I start crying, because this has just been a really tough bow season. I watched him run off for a ways. Want to get down and try to find the arrow. Just make sure, but I'm pretty sure he ducked it clean. So I walked the running track for about 180 yards. Really easy to see in that snow and all the leaves he was throwing up. Not a single drop of blood. My arrow had a little bit of hair on it. I must have just barely grazed the very top of his back. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. Walking into the roadway stand. There's a little bit of snow on. One of the lower fields when I was driving up had 3 does in it, so maybe deer will be moving earlier tonight to feed, because last night's weather was nasty. So let's see what happens. Coming up the hill, right from the hedgerow stand, right over there where that scrape is, I jumped the doe and a big buck. It looked like it might have been red roof, hard to tell. So, too bad I wasn't here an hour earlier, because if they were crossing the hill heading this way, odds are they would have came right past the stand across the hill. There were 3 doe out feeding in one of the lower fields, so I think the deer are on their feet already. be Motel 6, I couldn't tell. I'll shoot that buck if he comes in. He was going to cross at about 80 yards. Too far, obviously. But a lot of the deer have been coming down the roadway, if you want to call it the roadway, the grass roadway between the fence and the woods lane, going down and crossing where he was going to cross. So I was thinking he was going to come up, cross, and walk right past me, or even if I grunted at him, I could get him to turn this side of the hedgerow and come up. But halfway across the field, he started acting pretty spooky and weird and staring at something, and I was wondering what it was. I was wondering if another deer was coming out or if they were coyotes. And all of a sudden, he just took off running. So anyways, if it wasn't for bad luck, I didn't have much luck at all this week. Demoralizing, frustrating, a little embarrassing, but I'll stick with it. I still have like one arrow and one broadhead left, so I have decided I am going to get a new bow. That bow is 11 years old, and even the doe I shot at 30 yards, she ducked a lot on that arrow, but everything still worked out on it. She wasn't even alerted to my presence. So it's time for a new bow. I realize that, and I will get one for next season. But hopefully this bow I have has one more arrow release in it and one more buck in it. I'm Brian Masson with DeerHunterFan.com TV. I'll see you next time.